Hey there guys, welcome to another edition of Hamilton Draws. Now today I'm going to be talking to you about something that I've been doing recently, which is drawing with markers. And I'm going to be talking to you about how I draw these kinds of comic cards right here. These are something that I like to do periodically. They're a lot of fun. You can do them too. There's cardstock that you can get that's pretty cheap. And they're a nice way to focus in your art on little tiny details, and they're a lot of fun to do. And I kind of want to just talk about materials right now, and then over the course of a little bit I'm going to try to describe to you how I draw one of these. So let's start with tools right now. First of all, you're going to need a pencil. That's right, a little mechanical pencil. That's what I use. Some people like to use HB pencils or actual wood pencils, but I've always preferred a mechanical because it means that I'm always going to get a sharp tip every single time. I'm always going to get a nice crisp line, and that's something that's important to me. Next thing you're going to need is an eraser. This is a kneaded eraser. What you don't want is pencil shavings all over the place, and what's great about a kneaded eraser is that it doesn't leave anything on your table when you're done with it. When it gets dirty, you just stretch it out, you reshape it, and then suddenly you've got a clean spot to erase with again, and it doesn't leave any weird marks. Now after that, what you're going to need is to make some actual dark lines, and for that I use Sakura Pigma pens. Here I've got a couple of microns, and I've got a graphic here. Now the microns are for pristine, thin, perfect lines, and the graphics are for thicker lines, and there's a number of sizes for all of these, but these are the three sizes that I tend to have: a Micron 01, a Micron 05, and a Graphic 1. So these will get me super thin, mostly thin, pretty thick right here, and that's how I can get all kinds of line weights, but then get still consistent line weights when I want it. When I want it, I can get perfectly even lines as I'm drawing, or I can vary it up with something like this. Now this is a Pentel Brush Pen, which is kind of awesome. The Pentel Brush Pen allows you to have tons of control over your line and get super thick or super thin. It tends to have a thinner ink, which means that it dries lighter than the Microns. The Microns dry almost instantaneously, and they have a nice deep black, whereas the Pentel Brush Pen tends to dry a little bit thinner and a little bit grayer. But it allows you total control over your lines. Do you have control? I don't know. That's something you'll have to come up with yourself. At that point then, I do colors. And when I do colors, I have a lot of markers. Here you can see that I've got two sets of markers with me at all times. I've got my Prismacolor markers up here, and I've got my Copic markers down here. Now, both Prismacolor and Copic are fine markers. I tend to like Copics for my grayscales, and I tend to like Prismacolors for my colors. It's up to you, it really doesn't matter. You notice that I have a full set of toner grays here. Toner gray is a nice even gray for whenever I just want to do grayscale, or whenever I'm sketching. Whenever I sketch, I'll use like a 0 or a 1. That'll tend to fade into obscurity when you're done drawing. And then for my colors, I have a full set of Prismacolor colors. Now, these are random colors that I've chosen, but essentially I've got my flesh tones and my browns up here. I've got a pink and a red right here. I've got an orange and a yellow right here. I've got a light and a dark green and a light and a dark blue. And that allows me to do almost any kind of card that I might want to do, from something that's more yellow and green to something that's more, got blue in it, or something that's got red. I can do almost any color that I want with these few markers. And at that point, you guys, what I need you to do is, if you're actually going to be working with markers, what you need to do for yourself is get yourself a color guide. Now you can see that this is just me drawing on a couple of my cards, but essentially the problem with markers is that they don't dry in the same color as they color in. They always color darker, and then they dry lighter. And so you kind of have to have yourself a guide, especially with skin tones, to know exactly which tone you're using at any one time. And so I've just got the name of the marker and then a quick stripe of the marker so that I can tell how it actually looks when it gets dried. And that's a very, very important step that you're going to want to do for yourself if you're ever getting into marker drawings. Especially because for something like here, we've got the light cerulean blue. Now that looks like a fairly light blue, and you can see that the cloud blue is lighter. But you'll notice here that if I actually get the light cerulean blue marker, that is not the same color at all. This one almost looks white. It almost looks like a white blue, but this one looks just it looks a lot darker, and that's because the colors on the markers themselves aren't accurate at all. And so you really have to have yourself a guide so you can know what colors you're going to use at any one time. And that's kind of the tools that I always have in my immediate area. I always have a pencil. I always have an eraser. I always have a couple of Micron pens. I always have a brush pen for whenever I want, you know, just that awesome line quality whenever I need it. And I always have my markers. And if you have all of these tools together, then you can make fun little cards like this. And I don't know, give them to people or put them on the side of a building. I don't know what you're going to do with them. Anyways, so this is video 1. I hope this new series, you know, works out well. I'm going to go through me drawing a couple of cards. I'm going to start with a sketch phase. I'm going to go into pens. I'm going to go into markers, and I'm going to hopefully have a little fun with it. So come along for the journey.